are now listening to the Life of Produk Podcast.
Yeah, what up, man? It's the boy Produk. You're now locked into the Life of Produk Podcast. This is episode 134. I took a little hiatus, and I got to stop doing y'all like that because y'all keep hitting me up like, yo, P, when the show coming back, bong, bong, baby, we here. I didn't come empty-handed. I got somebody very special on the line today that's going to be a very big deal. Listen to me. This is episode 134, right? I got Kalil, Lil Rumble, Cuffe on the show. Did I say the last name right?
E is silent, but everything else
Cuff.
is good.
Okay, listen, man. I got Kalil, Lil Rumble, Cuff on the line. This is a big deal. What's good with you, my boy? How you feeling today?
Doing good. Enjoying the beautiful weather finally after the rough winter.
Facts.
So just taking advantage of it as much as possible.
I don't miss that New
How
York
about
weather
you?
no more.
Yourself?
I'm good, brother. It's a beautiful Sunday. You know I'm in North Carolina now, so this is the usual kind of like down here. Like we for some weird reason we actually had a winter down here, which we haven't had a winter in like 2 winters.
Yeah, no, I know. Like
You know
when
what I'm
I
saying?
know, even Florida got snow. That was the crazy part.
That's crazy. You know the end of days is coming when Florida gets snow. You know it's about to get bad.
Yo, and the crazy thing is, everybody was moving out of New York to go to Florida and Texas to get away from the snow, just to
Exactly.
still get the snow.
They probably
That's
brought
the
it with
funny
them. It's
part.
probably what it was. They took that energy with them. You know what I'm saying?
They took the energy with them. That's exactly what happened.
You ever see yourself moving out of New York?
You know, it's actually funny that you say that. There was a few times that I almost actually did move out of New York. There was 2 times. One time I almost moved to Las Vegas.
Wow.
And there's another time I recently where I was considering moving to New Jersey, just because honestly New York is just super expensive. You know, especially to live in New York by yourself.
Yeah.
It's like really expensive. But you know, luckily I have my family I have to fall back on to kind of help me out a little bit, and plus I have a lot of resources. Honestly, if it wasn't for the resources that I have here, I probably would have already moved out of New York already, to be honest.
I don't blame you, man. You know what's crazy? I moved out of New York twice. I left in 98, went back in 07. Then I left again in 2016. I stopped in Jersey first, and I came back to North Carolina, which is Jersey. It's funny you mentioned Jersey. Jersey is dope. I don't care what nobody say. People, Jersey gets the butt of the joke. Jersey is very dope. You know what I'm saying?
You want to know? I actually used to. Me and my mom, before we moved up to New York, we actually lived in Jersey for a little bit. We lived in Asbury Park. So that's where we used to live at in Jersey. When I was 6 years old, so I want to say 2009.
So you kind of familiar with it then?
Yeah, so it was like 2009. That's when we moved up to Brooklyn with my stepdad before he moved out to Long Island.
Yeah.
And 2 places I was actually thinking of moving to in Jersey is either going to be Jersey City or Union City, which is like right.
Union
it's like
City
the border,
right?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's going to be one of those 2, honestly, just because I wanted to be able to commute to New York still.
Yeah.
Just so I can still visit family. If I needed to keep the gym that I have over here in New York, I can commute, and it's not terrible.
Yeah.
The worst thing would just be the gas, and then I just have to pay the toll fees.
Oh man, you know what? If you're gonna commute, do Jersey City, because you know once you pass Jersey City, every other town in Jersey shuts down. Everything shuts down. So trying to get back, you know, the PATH train only goes to Jersey City. So if you do Union City, you don't drive. Trying to get to Union City is gonna be a hassle. 1 o'clock in the morning. That's the only drawback about Jersey. But me, I loved it out there. I hated the tolls, but I love it. You kind of once you live in Jersey, you kind of know how to get around all of that. You know what I'm saying? But I loved it. Jersey was pretty dope. So you've been in Long Island, Jersey, Brooklyn, and everything like that. I think that kind of everything happens for a reason. I feel like it kind of coincides with your career. So for the people listening, Lil Rumble is a fighter. He's an athlete. You feel what I'm saying? And his record is building. So your background was in wrestling originally.
Correct.
And you said, first of all, so my oldest son was a wrestler, and when we was in Jersey in high school, COVID kind of messed that up. People don't understand how much of a commitment it takes to be on a wrestling team in high school. Just in high school alone, though, they don't get it. Because you know, with every other sport, you got JV, varsity. You don't have that with wrestling. It's like, okay, you weigh 175, go wrestle this 18-year-old. It's not easy. It's not easy. Imagine, you know, for the people listening, imagine you 14, you getting thrown around like a rag doll, but you still in there. So for the kids that wrestle, I give y'all a lot of props. You know what I hate about it? I feel like the kids on the wrestling team, they don't get as much respect from the school as the football players and the basketball players.
And honestly, that's very unfortunate. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I understand on a general's eyes perspective why maybe wrestling isn't as appealing, or as maybe not come up as exciting as like the football or the basketball, or doesn't get the same notoriety. But you know, now it's gonna come from me as a little bit of a bias as a wrestler, but I can be a little bit unbiased because now I can see outside of wrestling. I know what people have said to me, you know, close to me, that are not really close to me, what I've seen on social media.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the only really big thing it's not the fact that wrestling's not exciting. It's not the fact that wrestling is not a great sport to be in, or it's not something to be proud of. It's really just comes down just to the marketing.
Yeah.
Because now when you come down to, and one guy that's doing a really good job at it, his name is Muggsy Boljunk, and you've probably seen him somewhere on social media once
Probably
or
did.
twice. But he's been doing a great job as far as marketing wrestling and helping grow the sport alongside with a lot of the state athletic commissions, growing the sport with allowing girls to wrestle and making that their own league now. Because there used to be, there's like girls, if girls wanted to wrestle, they wrestle with the boys.
Yeah, I saw
Now
that.
girls actually have their own separate team and their
It's
own
about
separate
time.
competition, which is a big jump.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
They did that
huge.
in they did that in college. They
Yeah.
just now did that on the high school level. They just had their first state championship. Long Island had a few state champions
That's dope.
at the girls level as well. So I mean, it's big. So, but the big thing about wrestling is really just the marketing. It doesn't get the marketing that basketball does. It doesn't get the marketing that football does, or even baseball or soccer.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason is because all of those sports have these huge big leagues like the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, the NHL.
Yeah.
So a lot of people after college and after high school, they have that to be like, oh, okay, these are the big leagues. When it comes to wrestling,
Yeah.
it's pretty much the Olympics or the UFC. So wrestling is respected a lot by martial artists and UFC
Oh
guys.
yeah. You gotta
But when it
respect it.
comes to just regular athletes or just other sports in general, it's kind of looked as like the little brother, like the redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, and that's the dude in the room you don't want no smoke with. That's the dude
Exactly.
that's the
That's
dude
the
in the room
one
you don't
dude you
want no.
should look out for.
Yeah,
But
you don't want no. The funny thing about it, right? Okay, when you said like the marketing, I blame WWE for that. Now, no disrespect to
yeah.
WWE, right? But WWE back in like the early '90s had us kids really thinking like wrestling was that. It was not. It was not that at all. You know what I'm saying? I remember the first time watching a real wrestling match. I was on TV and I was watching my pops. I was like, yo, why he ain't do a clothesline? You know what I'm saying? Not understanding. I was so out the loop with everything. I was so out the loop. I
Yep.
think one of the reasons why wrestling is not as big, like, is the marketing you said, but also there's really no way to attach a gimmick to it. You can't really attach a gimmick to it. It's like you either good or you're not good. You're
That is,
either gonna get pinned or you're not
yeah.
gonna get pinned. You can so you got WWE style wrestling where they build stories around these people. Even with MMA, you
hmm
take a Bellator or a UFC fighter, he's got a story that they could attach to it. You take basketball, a kid
hmm
from a single parent household, mother had 3 sons or whatever. He made it, they got it out the hood. It's hard to attach somewhat those type of stories or those type of gimmicks and antics. And I don't want to say gimmick per se, but just using the word to a wrestler is really not the same thing because that's a
Yeah.
sport where you're 1v1. It's a 1v1 sport and your talent is going to speak for itself.
Yeah, you want to know what I feel? I feel wrestling. Maybe it's not like a storyline type of sport, you in that type of sense, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, got out the hood. Like there are stories. Like even I
Yeah.
can take an example. One of our local Long Island wrestlers, Dunia Sivamani. He's a 2-time state champion out here.
Mm-hmm.
His background story was he was in a bad monkey attack back in Africa.
Mm.
He actually got adopted by one of the wrestling coaches out here,
Mm.
and he didn't have much working for him. Now I could be butchering the story, so for anybody that's listening, I apologize in
We're
advance.
sorry about
But it
that.
was something along those lines. He came out here. He was hanging around the wrestler guys like your Corey Teamer, Elijah Rodriguez, all those like really in Long Beach, New York, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of those wrestler guys, and then now he has a high drive, high skill set for wrestling. Like he's going to
Mm-hmm.
national tournaments, he's going to Super 32s, he's
Mm.
going to Virginia Beach and stuff like that. So he has a story. Maybe it's not like I got it out the hood story, or
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go buy my mama like a house and everything.
Yeah.
One thing I do think is helping that scenario is the NIL. I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
think that the NIL is allowing that to happen a
I'm
little bit
glad
more.
the
It's
NIL is doing
allowing,
that, man. I'm really
some,
because ooh,
yeah,
telling you,
yeah.
dog.
So it's allowing it to be something to look for, something that can make a difference. You can even see it,
Mm.
on like some of these kids. Is like a lot, like the competitions are getting a lot steeper. Instead of it
Mm-hmm.
being like a small group of guys is like really good, everybody else is like maybe above average, and then the rest of average are
Yeah.
below. It's like now a lot of guys are like really good, but in their own style. So
That's what I'm loving
I feel
about it.
like I feel like the NIL is actually starting to help push
Mm-hmm.
And promote wrestling on top of the marketing and the social media that's going on about wrestling. So
Yeah,
I
and
think
it's
we're
about
actually heading
time.
in a good
It's
direction.
about time that I want to talk on the next segment of the show. We're gonna take a quick break. We gotta pay these bills real quick. But on the next segment of the show, let's really talk about the NIL and just the functionality of it and the benefits that it's brought. G is the boy product, Life Product Podcast, episode 134. I got Kalil, Lil Rumble, Cuffe on the show. We will be right back with the second segment of the show. G is the boy product. We're now back with the Life of Product Podcast, episode 134. If you need sponsorships, advertisements, or interviews, it is lifeofproduct@gmail.com or corporate.ent at gmail.com. That is corporate with the K. Let's get your brand out there. Let's get your music out there. Let's talk that talk. G is episode 134. I got Kalil, Lil Rumble, Cuffe on the show. Kalil is a wrestler, kickboxer, and an MMA fighter. And we were talking about the NIL stuff on the last segment. I think it's about time that they started paying these kids, because you remember back in the day where NCAA was like when it was kind of more in its prime, like in the late 90s, going in the early 2000s, and you would go to the mall, you would see the Duke University jerseys, you would see the Carolina University jerseys. They would never have a last name on it. They would sometimes have a number, or if you would play the video games, you would see the number of that player. It looked like the player, but they didn't have the last name on it.
You could never put the name for legal reasons.
And that's how they was getting, or one of the ways they was getting out of paying them. Now they're paying them. And now you look at WNBA. WNBA players that have NIL deals are making more money from that than some of the actual players in the WNBA. I'm sorry, I'm college players. I didn't mean to say WNBA players. Women's college players, basketball players are making more money with NIL deals than they are from the actual team. Which is crazy, but that's a whole deeper rabbit hole that a lot of people ain't ready to talk about. But we got you on the show today. Your record is 4-0 right now. Your professional record is. Did you get any amateur fights before that?
Well, that is my amateur, so I'm looking to go pro within maybe the next year or two.
It's definitely gonna happen.
So
gonna happen.
So I'm 4-0 on my amateur record right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's great. It's great. I think So when did your amateur career start? At what point? Like, give me a time frame.
So honestly, the crazy thing was I didn't even think I was going to start MMA ever, because you want to know, I was always scared of before I even started. I was always scared of getting hit in the face, because I've done wrestling, I've done taekwondo when I was younger and I was a black belt. I've done martial arts. I've been into school fights and stuff like that. Yeah. Not many, but I've been into a good few. But I was always worried about getting hit by somebody that's trained to be a martial artist. And it wasn't until it was my head coach at the time, Sensei Omar. I was at his gym, and my only purpose at that gym was because I wanted to be, the wrestling instructor, start my wrestling program there. That was the only reason I went to that gym.
Yeah.
So it was about one day, I want to say 2023, in the summer 2023, he was like, yo, you should come stop by the adult kickboxing class, see if you like it. I was like, getting kicked in the face.
You was like,
and I was like, yeah, it's like, I like to wrestle. You know what I'm saying? But I was like, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? So I walk in one day. I ain't no jack squat. Like, I can throw a punch, but I can throw a kick, but it didn't look pretty at all.
Okay.
Right? Remember my first day, I went to this guy, his name was AJ. He said, hit as hard as you want to get hit. I was like, all right. I got dropped with a body shot, and I was like, oh, that's what it feels like to get hit.
Yeah, yo, body shots is no joke, man.
It sucks, but I'm still alive.
Yeah. Body shots are no joke. First time I got hit with a body shot, I couldn't breathe. You know what I'm saying? But I'm glad I'm glad it happened, though, because I got to experience it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't mean to cut you off. My bad. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. So then honestly, when I started to want to get competitive about it, it was when I went to my first event. It was a jackhammer event, and it was Fall Brawl in November of 2023. One of my guys is fighting, TK. He was having his debut fight. It just being in that environment, because I had a situation happen to me when I was in college that almost killed my love for wrestling. Killed my love for wrestling. Almost did with my experience when I wrestled Division 3, right? And I went into that environment, and I hadn't been wrestling. I hadn't really been competing in about, maybe I want to say, a year and a half until that point. And just being in that locker room, being in that environment, seeing the cage, seeing somebody that I know, like a familiar face, just competing, it kind of it reignited that fire.
That's great.
That competitive fire that I got from wrestling. It reignited, I started getting the butterflies. I was getting a little shaky. I was getting nervous, as if I'm about to go hop into the octagon. Meantime, it's like I'm supposed to be behind this certain line. I'm like, oh, oh, I was like, that moment is like, this is where I want to be.
And
This is
the bug
where
just got you got bit by the bug at that point.
I got bit by the
That's
bug and
great.
it took over. And
That's
that was
great,
it.
man. I
And
love
then
it.
I told my coach, it's like, yo, I want to fight. I want to do this. I want to training. I'm like, this is what I want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was booked for my very first fight. I will never forget, March 10th,
Mm-hmm.
2024,
Uh-huh.
Jackhammer, that same place. I was ready. And surprisingly, here's the other thing. I got my first sponsor from that fight. And my first sponsor was
Okay.
my last boss that I've had. And the crazy thing was, I wasn't even looking for sponsors. I was about to just go in and just
That's
wear
dope.
whatever shorts and da 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 da.
Uh-huh.
But he offered to sponsor me at the same time that he was firing me from that job. So it was like, oh, I got mixed emotions about this.
Yeah,
So I was
right.
like,
Oh, that's
oh,
funny, man. It's like, how do you
yeah. So
explain
I was like,
that? You
wait,
know what I'm saying?
I like me as a 0-0 amateur kickboxer can
Yeah.
get sponsored.
Yeah.
So I
Mm-hmm.
got a few sponsors and everything, and then I went into that fight, and it's just like it just confirmed. And I took that fight to just really instill the belief that
Mm-hmm.
this is where I belonged.
Yeah.
This is where I can hang. Like this is where I was destined to be. So that's pretty
Mm-hmm.
much where my MMA journey, kickboxing journey started originally.
Sometimes you got to make yourself a believer. Sometimes you don't believe in yourself enough until your other side's like, "Shut up, I got this. Let me take over." And that's kind of what
Yup.
what, what the situation is. And so, with your amateur career started on paper last year, right? In March of last year.
On paper
On
last year,
paper,
March 10th, 2024. That was the
yeah.
first time that anybody's ever heard of Rumble
But I
in the
think that's
MMA
great
world.
though, and I'm gonna tell you why I think it's great. I think it's great that within a year you've only had 4 amateur fights because a lot of guys they pretty much they rush themselves out with the amateur fight. You'll see dudes they'll have an amateur record of like 100 fights and stuff like that within a few years, and it's like okay, but you've been doing so much in that amount of time. By the time they go pro, their bodies are tired. So
Exactly.
for the fact that you're pretty much spacing your fights out, I think that's a good thing, and it's giving you more time to build up a record and to train more. So and that's another thing I want to touch on too. I feel like the younger MMA fighters now of your generation, you guys are taking not just training serious, but you guys are taking conditioning and working out serious. The older MMA guys weren't doing that. They weren't. They would get in there, especially the heavyweights. They would get in there, little muffin topish or whatever, and they get in there and it's like okay, they got the ball body. You know what I'm saying? They look like they could down a bottle of vodka and just knock you out. That's great, but by the end of the first round, when you can't breathe, you know what I'm saying? What you gonna
and
do?
that
You know?
and that's the reason why a lot of us younger MMA fighters we train the way that we do. You
Mm-hmm.
want to know? It's because with the luxury that we actually grew up with is because MMA started, I want to say in like the 90s, maybe the 80s, but I know it started getting big around the 90s. So
Mm-hmm.
MMA is compared to all the other martial arts, or even just the sports,
Yeah.
is relatively one of the newest sports. So even to this day, there's still science that's going around it.
Mm-hmm.
That we're still learning about. There's still techniques that nobody's really mastered yet, but people
Yeah.
kind of got a better hang of.
Yeah.
And the luxury that even myself and just us as younger fighters growing up in today's era of MMA,
Mm-hmm.
we have so much resources to learn and from everyone's mistakes to see what has worked well, what has worked against this style, what has worked
Mm-hmm.
against that style, what's working now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This person with our same build,
Mm-hmm.
how do they win? How do they compete? And there's so much more science in it. There's so much more knowledge and education within the sport that we can learn from, so much more resources that we can pull from
Facts.
than maybe the guys from before us had. So
Yes.
now that's why you're seeing that's especially the reason why you're seeing, you know, there's instead of just, again, same thing with wrestling, instead of just, the select few really good guys,
Mm-hmm.
the above average and then the average and then the Joe Schmoes,
Yes.
a lot of guys are becoming really good. They're
Mm-hmm.
doing this really quickly because you can look on YouTube, you can look on Instagram. Like my
Yeah.
Instagram reel feed is flooded with MMA content,
Mine too.
right? My TikTok is flooded with MMA content. You go to
Yeah.
my YouTube, you see my YouTube recommended, it's
Mm-hmm.
MMA content.
Yeah.
I I consume a lot of stuff naturally just within my day. That's MMA. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people they doom scroll. No, I'm not saying I don't have fun and I don't doom scroll. I'm not
Yeah.
the perfect human being.
Yeah.
But guess what? Between those doom scrolls, guess what? I'm learning a technique on boxing. I'm learning a technique on
Mm-hmm.
kickboxing. I'm learning a technique on Muay Thai or wrestling or
Yeah.
jujitsu. So there's a lot more to consume and there's a lot more pick from as far as resources, a lot more to learn from compared to what was available back then. And
I'm
I
glad you
think
mentioned
that
the boxing part. Listen, hold on. We're gonna take one more break. We're gonna come back. I want to talk about the effects of boxing and what it has on MMA. And this is something that a lot of people really need to pay attention. We'll be right back. G's Boy Product, Life of Product Podcast, episode 134. We're gonna take a quick break and we're gonna come right back to y'all. Stay tuned. Gia, what up, man? It's the Boy Product. We're now back with the Life of Product Podcast, episode 134. I got Kalil, Lil Rumble, Cuffe on the show, upcoming MMA fighter from upcoming MMA and kickboxer from Long Island, New York. Yo, what I love about Long Island, man, Long Island is like the sixth borough. Y'all don't get enough credit, man. Y'all don't get enough credit at all. Y'all don't get everybody from Brooklyn and Queens running Long Island to rejuvenate their life and start over, but then they don't never rep y'all, which is crazy. Yeah, it's wild. I have family in Hempstead, then I got family up in Deer Park and like way up on that side or whatever. And I didn't realize it gets a little crazy. We just thought like everybody in Long Island was rich growing up, but it's not the case.
Nah, it's like,
you know what I'm saying?
You want to know from the outside looking in, it definitely looks that way because of all the social media and the TV and the movies that make Long Island seem like, this forever paradise. But then you go to like literally the first town you hit in Long Island, which is Valley Stream, you're like, oh, this Long Island?
Valley Stream. And what's the town right outside? If you take Merrick and you go when you take Merrick and then you go to that part, it's
you talking about Far Rockaway? You talking about Elmont?
Not Far Rockaway. It's okay if you take Merrick and then you bust a left and there's a city right there. I forgot. I think it starts with an E. I can't remember.
I think you're talking about Elmont.
Yeah, Elmont. Yeah. So I remember my BM had moved to Elmont, and I used to go pick my daughter up. And I'm like, oh, it looks nice out here. Then I will pull up to the crib, and then I see a bunch of hood dudes with charges on the block, and I'm like, all right, don't make me crash out. Don't make me do it. Yeah, I went to the 7-Eleven around the corner. I'm getting dirty looks. I'm like, I could have stayed in Brooklyn for this. Like, come on, you know what I mean? But it's crazy.
My girl's, the crazy thing is my girl lives in Elmont, and I be telling her the same thing.
Yo, see, you get it, right? You understand it. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, Elmont. It's like, I'm gonna just keep it there because I already know when she hear it, she gonna put some whoop on my behind real quick.
Tell you, dog. Elmont is like, I thought I was back. It was like Elmont is like if Brooklyn and Queens had a baby. Like if Flatbush and if Flatbush and Farmers had a baby, it'd be Elmont. You know what I'm saying? But shouts out to Elmont, man. It's all good. But we was talking about.
But they did just get that UBS arena, which was dope. I never been inside, but I heard a lot of good.
I heard it was good too, man. I'll hopefully I get to see it one day. But so we were talking about boxing now. Have you noticed a lot of so on the UFC end, right? Have you noticed a lot of UFC fighters now, for some reason, maybe I'm tripping, a lot of them have been leaning towards boxing and striking, and you've been getting a lot of less like grappling and whatnot. Have you noticed that? Maybe I'm just tripping.
I have noticed a trend of boxing starting to pick up a lot in MMA. I have noticed that.
Yeah.
Now, here's the reason. Because a lot of people, obviously the fans are going to be like, oh, we want more striking. Yeah. Why are you guys grappling? So some guys are going to do it for the excitement of the fans.
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm like, listen, if you just wanted all striking, go watch one championship. Yeah. They'll have Muay Thai and kickboxing over there. UFC is always been mixed martial arts. It's mixed martial arts. You get what I'm saying? But no, I have noticed the trend. A lot of guys are really working on their hands, and I think it's a good thing because a lot of even the high level guys, when you look at their hands, it's just like their fundamentals are just all out of whack.
Yeah.
So not even just the hands part of boxing, but the footwork part of boxing as well.
Yeah, it's really out of whack. Really is.
That's what it is. Their footwork is all out of whack. They're pretty much reliant on these like big super kicks or big punches to land, or their extreme like superb ability for grappling. And now it's like you see less like quote unquote specialists in the high levels of MMA. Now you really have to be like a mixed martial artist, like a John Jones type of fighter to really be at the top ranks. You're seeing the specialists, even in striking, the specialists in striking are starting to go away. The specialists in grappling are starting to go away.
Yeah.
The guys that are doing really good are the guys that can blend it really well together and are doing it at a higher level than most.
You're right. I would like to see Pereira do more grappling. He's great with punches, and his leg kicks, dog. His leg kicks is crazy.
Oh, it's crazy.
Leg kicks is crazy. His punch, I think Pereira has really good hands because he actually boxed and did kickboxing, so that kind of plays a difference. I think he lost his last fight. I kind of seen it coming during his last fight. You could kind of tell he was gonna lose when he fought Yuri. he almost lost that fight. He picked it back up. He almost lost it. I think a lot of these fighters now, like you're saying, a lot of these younger fighters, they have access to different things. I think the coaching and the training for MMA now versus 10 years ago is way better. Like the way they train now, they don't just get in the ring, spar, grapple, boom, boom. I think they're doing it higher on the mental level as well. They're really studying
Exactly.
their opponents, which to me is making the sport way better. I want to ask you a question, man, because I was trying to not debate, but I was talking to one of my homeboys about this, right? John Jones versus Francis Ngannou. If that fight happens, they threw a hint out there. It could happen, but it would have to happen under PFL. It's not going to happen with UFC. That would be the biggest payday of their careers on the MMA level.
Both of them.
If John Jones fights Francis Ngannou, who do you think will win that fight?
This has always been like a very tough call to make. It's always been very tough because you got to consider that. Now, if we're talking about now, it's like, like you want to know. This is how I break it down. If Francis Ngannou doesn't hit John Jones in the first round, John Jones is gonna just win the fight, whether it's by a knockout, whether it's by submission, whether it's by decision. But again, going back to even the fundamentals, like Francis Ngannou is not necessarily like a fundamental guy. You don't look at Francis Ngannou for his technical boxing or his precision or his kickboxing.
Yeah.
Francis Ngannou is pure power, but that power can hurt you for real.
It's different,
man. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So but as far as technique, Ngannou lacks technique. You look through all of Ngannou's matches, it's his power has won him all of his fights.
Yeah, it
like
has.
Truth be told,
it really has. Prime John Jones versus prime Ngannou, prime John Jones all day. John Jones now, if all Ngannou needs is really one good solid hit, and he will lay John Jones out. The thing is,
that's what I'm saying.
John Jones
guess
is good,
what?
though.
He's going to be blowing so much steam trying to get that one hit. How much steam is he going to have?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Look, with John Jones, if you give John Jones time, because you'll sit there, you'll be trying to figure him out. You're not understanding that time is lapsing, and as that time lapses, John Jones is going to break you down on every level. He's going to break you down on every level. But
that's what he does with everybody.
He does. But the thing is with John Jones is no one's ever hit John Jones how Francis Ngannou hits people. I've seen John Jones take hits. I saw him when he fought Machida. That was one of the hardest fights he had. The fight when he had with his fight against what's his name? Rampage. Dominic Reyes, Rampage. Even when he fought Tom Aspinall, even though he broke Aspinall down, Aspinall got good hits on him. But none of them.
You talking about John Jones or you talking about Ngannou?
So both of them fought John Jones. I mean, both of them fought Tom Aspinall. Remember
John Jones? I don't think John Jones didn't fight
Aspinall. Not Aspinall. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about Stipe. I'm so sorry. Stipe. Stipe. When he fought John Jones, he got him with really good hits, but it wasn't enough. When Ngannou fought Stipe, remember he lost that first fight. That first fight to Stipe, he won the second fight against Stipe. So it's kind of like, all right, if Stipe could beat Ngannou and then John Jones just beat Stipe the first fight, how is it gonna? You know what I mean? But Stipe kind of. I don't want to say he caught Ngannou slipping, but he did really good with that first fight against Ngannou.
But I don't know if you can even really compare how John Jones did against Stipe versus how Ngannou did against Stipe, because you gotta remember, like that was Stipe's like last fight. He was getting old.
Yeah.
He wasn't himself. So I don't know if that's like a comparable. I don't know if that's a comparable, like, scale.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I felt bad for Stipe.
Me too.
You know what I'm saying? But so before we end the show, we got your career is at 4-0 right now, right? When do you see yourself going pro?
Honestly, truth be told, like this is something I've envisioned probably for like the past year. I wanna definitely get like an amateur title or two, within the next year or so. I also do want to compete for Team Jamaica. Team Jamaica, they have international Pan Am MMA team.
That's dope.
And next summer, I'm planning to compete for them.
That's
so
dope.
I'm just getting all my stuff ready for that. And then after that, once all is said is done, I get my rhythm, I get my flow, I continue to get my experience. I'm planning to go pro probably after I come back from Team Jamaica.
That's dope.
And
I say do it.
Probably one of
that's a good plan.
I feel like it's a decent timeline. I would have about 2-3 years worth of experience on top of my wrestling experience. And then especially I want to thank all my sponsors. I'm just gonna take a little quick second to thank my sponsors.
Yes,
Teep Territory, Somatic Massage Therapy and Spa, Visionary Auto Group in Island Park, Visionary Wealth Group, Energy Fuel in Belmore, and Masaskaya Jiu Jitsu Gym in downtown Brooklyn, Canal Street. Just want to thank all my sponsors.
Dope.
Without them, I would not be as well trained, as well versed, as focused as I have been. So to all my sponsors, current and past and future, you guys are much loved and much appreciated. But continuing to what I was saying, yeah, with like all the focus and everything, next year I definitely should be ready. I definitely should feel confident to definitely turn pro, start to really compete against like the rest of the MMA world, because I know the amateurs is just good for getting your experience. I don't want to just be just a dominant amateur champion. That's like being a JV champion.
Yeah.
There's I mean, I'm aiming for the big leagues, and I'm aiming for the 1% in the big leagues. So
And it's
this is
there, man.
just
I see the
this.
potential. I see it. I
Yep,
definitely
this
see it.
this is just dipping my toes in the water. That's all it is.
You know what? For y'all that haven't seen his last fight, go look at it on YouTube. He, and not to down the other guy, because I'm pretty sure the other guy is good, but you knocked him out in 7 seconds. 7
Yeah.
seconds. That's
So so
you know what I'm
the
saying?
crazy thing. So here was the thing about that fight. I knew that I was gonna I felt the confidence that I was gonna end that fight. I wasn't gonna go to decision. I knew it wasn't gonna go to decision. I think it was gonna happen that quick. I didn't think it was gonna happen as quick as it did. And
Yeah.
honestly, when I was in there, I was locked in. I was focused. It was the most locked in I've ever felt in my life.
That's dope.
And I went out there, we touched gloves. When I meant to throw the double jab was intentional. When I say that last punch to cross, I did not mean it. I didn't know I threw it until I looked at the replay. All I seen was that the body just dropped and then he hit the fence. And then even if you look at the video, you see I paused for a little bit and then I go for the ground and pound finish.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
saw
know.
that.
That was like the first two punches, that was me. That last punch, that was instinct and that was God. I was like, I can't even sit here and lie to you with a straight face.
Because you know what it
But
is in fighting, your muscle memory aligns with your reflex memory. They coincide with each other, and that's kind of what it was. I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, I'm a believer. I'm a believer. I'm a believer.
yeah,
I
it's
see it, man. But you know what? You're striking, from seeing your striking, you don't look like a wrestler. And I think the fact that you don't look like a wrestler, but from your stance to your striking to your footwork, that's gonna actually work in your advantage in the long run, because a lot of fighters are not gonna believe that, oh, this kid can wrestle. You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
And so my son was wrestling. He's starting MMA training now. And I said, oh, yo, always remember your wrestling. Now, mind you, so when I was younger, I took judo when I was younger. My pops took me to the boxing gym. I hit the bag a little bit. Then I kind of got back into it a little bit, but I didn't really go far with it. So I've been doing boxing drills with him off and on, both of my sons off and on for a long time or whatever. But I always told him, I said,
Okay.
if you ever start training MMA, remember your wrestling. I said, your wrestling that's gonna be the key to saving you. You feel what I'm saying?
When you get into
that
like a
space
bad
card.
position,
Yeah.
yep. That's literally like a get out of jail for free if you know how to
It
use it.
it
If
really
you
is.
if you just using that wrestling, you just throwing it out there, you're just gonna
Mhm.
put yourself in the worst position. But if
Yeah.
you know how to use it when you need to use it,
Yeah.
it can actually get you out of a lot of
Yeah, nah,
shit.
for real, for real. He tried it on me one day. He's like, "Yo, let me use my wrestling. Let me use you use your judo." He tried to grab me. I popped him in his ribs. I was like, "Don't touch me, brother." you got it twisted, man. You had to show him something. You know what I mean? Bog. But yeah, it's the boy product, Life of Produk Podcast. Kalil, Lil Rumble, Cuffe on the show. Listen, when you go pro, when you get that first belt, you gotta come back to the show. Don't get brand new on me, man. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, don't worry,
Come
I'll be
back to the
back.
show.
I'll
We're
be
gonna do
back.
an in-person interview. You know what I mean? I want to
We'll
hold a
do it
belt.
in person. I'll bring the belt in, and I'll be like, and we'll be like, hey, let's take a little recap
Yeah.
from the last time.
Facts. I'm gonna take a selfie and I'm gonna flex with it like it's mine. Don't just mind your business. Don't say nothing. Gia is the boy product. Life of Product Podcast. We out, baby. Gia, you already know. You know what I'm saying?
You are now listening to the Life of Produk Podcast.